What is up, my brothers from another mother? We got another reach request for you today. If you're new to the channel, you can sponsor a topic or suggest a topic for a video through reach.me/Richard Cooper. There's a link below in the description if you're on a tablet, phone, or a computer. But essentially, you sponsor the topic, you send me your question, and I record a video. Most of these I upload publicly to the channel so that the community can feedback and add some value beyond what my thoughts are. But I have had some people that have requested to keep them private, which I do, and I just upload direct to the platform. I'll give you an example. I had a guy the other day that was trying to vet basically a A-list daughter for marriage, vetting for marriage. So obviously you don't want that public out on the interweb. So you can do it either way. If you want it public, you just let me know at the end. Don't mind if the message is shared on the channel. So this guy wants to kind of go down the rabbit hole of how do I reproduce and not get screwed. So I'll just read it through. It's a pretty short one. Thanks for the great content. I'm a man in 30, single, not dating anyone at the moment. Through your videos, I've realized that it's probably a bad idea to get married or live with a woman. Just to kind of quickly summarize that up if you're new to the channel or you haven't watched that many of the videos. Marriage law in the Western world is generally very hostile towards men. Again, this is just the distilled version. It's generally very hostile towards men when it comes to divorce. It's very high reward, low risk for women, but high risk and low reward for men. Also, the way that the family law legislation is put out there, there's no incentive for women to behave well during the course of a divorce. All the incentives are for control and access to money, which lets them optimize their hypergamous nature, which, like we live in a female-centric primary order. We already know that. So that's why he's basically understood that part. Living together with a woman, not that great of an idea simply because most guys can't maintain frame. They usually default back to their blue-pilled beta self. A lot of guys turn from pets to plow horses after the I do's and they live together. And of course, the notion that competition anxiety relaxes a lot with women when they live with you, and they're not going to be on their best behavior like you were in the honeymoon phase, kind of the dating phase, is why a lot of guys, have come to understand that. We did a live broadcast a couple of days ago, and one of the contributors on the panel, one of my private men's community guys, stated clearly like he would never live with a woman again because he knows that he will default back to his old beta blue pill conditioning, and that's not conducive to a great relationship. He knows that it's far better if he keeps her at a little bit of a length. So that's, I don't know if it's the same, no, it's not because this guy's name is Patrick. But anyway, he goes, I definitely want to go to, I definitely don't want to go the traditional marriage route and get screwed. However, I do want to have children. So the dichotomy is, how do you find a woman to reproduce with you that is also okay and unwilling to get married and reap the benefits of family law? I think everything in female nature and conditioning, their upbringing, the Disney-esque movies of the big wedding with the dress and the party and the carriage and all the blah, 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 conditions nearly all women to subscribe to the notion that the safety, the insurance policy of marriage, I mean, it's not just that, it's also the provisioning. When a woman, gives birth to a kid, they're very fragile, they're very exposed. So I think that generally speaking, women are looking for that security blanket. And just to be clear, I mean, we've been doing this for like 6 million years. I mean, for the vast majority of it, we've been reproducing and have kids in kind of a hunter-gatherer sort of tribal community. They say that it takes a village to raise kids. That's an older saying just because that's basically how humanity has been living for a long period of time. Let's take the entire screen if I can figure out how to do this. Anyway, something like that. Let's say that that's human history. If I were just to pluck like a little beard here and stick it out over here, that would be modern time, the last 10,000 odd years, where the notion of marriage, monogamy, living together as husband and wife came about. And that's really as a function of agriculture. You can read Sex at Dawn if you want to get some more information on why that is. There's a link below. Actually, guys, in all my videos, towards the bottom of the description tab, there's a link to all my recommended reading. Sex at Dawn is in there. And that's why I'm mentioning that. You should check that out if you want to understand why. So he wants to find a partner that he'd like to have kids with. What would be the best way to raise children without getting married or cohabitating? All right. Surrogacy and a lesbian. I don't know. I mean, let's talk about those two things for a minute, because I don't know that this is something that's reasonable or even possible in most Western countries, with some exceptions. I'll explain why in a little bit. But he wants to find a partner who'd like to have kids with him and not get married or live with her. So I don't know. The notion of surrogacy gets talked a lot by guys that kind of lean more towards the MGTOW area. They say the juice is not worth the squeeze, the game is rigged, check out of it, blah, 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 sort of fill in a blank. So that's a notion that they've come up with. That's their potential solution. Pay somebody to carry your seed for 9 months, and then you take over from there. But the problem with that is you don't have a mother. We know that children do far better in society when we release them upon the world, when they've been raised by two-parent households, mother and father, opposite sex, obviously, not, gay or lesbian or anything like that. But generally speaking, raised by both masculine energy and feminine energy, and they're released upon the world by two great, successful parents. That is the ultimate goal if you want to release useful children to the world. We already know by, statistics that women get about 83% of custody orders currently in today's modern world. Give me 1 second. And the problem with that is we've seen what that's resulted in. That's a function of feminism, birth control pill, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's kind of like, time, right place and time. And we've seen that now the vast majority of the incarcerated in prisons come from single mother households. Teenage pregnancies mostly come from single mother households, runaway kids, teenage suicides, poor grades in school. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, there's no child that does better in a single parent household versus having access to both parents. It's very difficult for them to assess how children do in single father households, simply because there's not a lot of data that's available on that, because most women get, custody orders. So unless the mother's passed away and the guy's widowed sort of thing, it's very, very difficult to assess that. So there's not a hell of a lot of data, but for the most part, we know that single parent households are incredibly bad at raising useful children. So would you recommend living separately even for couples with a child? So back to the notes that I took. Surrogacy is really not an option because you don't have a female in the child's life. So thinking outside of the box, as I often do, sometimes I don't even see the box. That's how the entrepreneurial mind generally works. I thought to myself, okay, what about a lesbian mother? Could she live next door in the house beside you? You have a kid with her. You raise the kid together. Maybe set a schedule. But that's kind of weird, right? I mean, she's going to see dad with, probably women come and go, and seeing mom with, a woman, or women come and go in two separate homes. I can't think of any real scenario where you can solve this problem given today's marriage laws and family law and how it governs divorce in most Western countries, with the exception of a few, which I'll get to in just a moment. Let me continue reading. What is the alternative marriage cohabitation for rational men who want to have children but who don't want to get screwed by the system? You're going to have to talk to a family lawyer about the getting screwed by the system where you live. There are some exceptions. Let me just hop into it. There's been equal shared parenting bills introduced in Parliament a number of times. I just did a quick Google search and I opened up some tabs, which I'll kind of flip to. I'm not going to read these. This is from 2014. I think my divorce started around 2012, 2013, and there was a bill introduced in Canadian Parliament. This is a 2015 bill. This is a Canadian publication. Confirming that children do far better in a joint custody arrangement. There's another one here, the growing case for shared parenting after divorce is 2016. This is, of course, Brad. He's getting taken right through the divorce machine with Angelina Jolie. From what I understand, she's complaining that he hasn't paid anything, and he's complaining that he hasn't had any real access to his kids. And the only people that suffer are these little people over here. I think two of them they've had together and the rest of them that they've adopted. But either way, it's an incredibly bad environment for children. Not only does the guy get screwed by the system, and often, it's called divorce rate for a reason, because he's left with next to nothing. And he essentially watches the flow of financial resources go to his ex-wife while she uses that money to alienate him from his own children. So it's very painful for men. I think men's suicide rates are pinned somewhere around 5 times higher after divorce than before. And there's a reason for that. There's a truthful reason for that. And it doesn't serve the children. It doesn't serve the father. And even though the mother may not agree or accept the reality of it, it doesn't serve her, because a lot of kids, especially boys, that are raised from single mother households end up resenting their mother as they leave the home, and they don't even want to have a relationship with their mother for a whole bunch of reasons, which is an entirely different video. But let's finish this out. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Don't mind if you share the message. So the only scenario in which I can think that that might work for you, and I couldn't find the case law and the bill that was in Parliament, but the bill that was in Canadian Parliament basically introducing default shared parenting was voted out. But the notion came up as early as, I think, 2009, 2010. I was actually hopeful at the time when I was going through divorce this bill would pass and be introduced as law so that I would get default shared parenting without having to fight for it. But I had to fight for it on the other end, which was very costly as far as time and money goes. But there are countries currently, and I think if I recall, there's some in Europe, some in, I can't remember if it was New Zealand or Australia. Somebody's going to have to confirm in the comments below, because I'm sure there's people all over the world watching this, and you can let everybody know where you live and if you have default shared parenting on divorce. But there's actually countries, states, or provinces that have implemented and passed legislation that state it is default shared parenting upon divorce unless one of the parents can prove the other one is essentially inept, incompetent, would be useless as a parent to the child. For example, I don't know, they're a drug dealer, they're a hooker, something that's like exceptional or outside of the parenting box. And that way they wouldn't have to throw family resources and money at trying to have access to the kids. So there's a lot of guys that I talk to and I coach privately. If you guys, need to reach me again, there's a pinned link below in the description. It's just clarity.fm/Richard Cooper. You can book my time one-on-one for a call and understand how you can get shared parenting through divorce. You have to talk to me though before you get divorced, of course. But with that, it allows you to avoid the cost and time, which can be years and hundreds of thousands of dollars that men will throw at trying to get access to a shared parenting plan, which is fair. It's like essentially a shared arrangement where both parents have access to the kids and no one parent makes all the decisions and takes all the money from the other. But that's not the world that we live in today, which is why there's risk that's associated with it, which is why I tell guys constantly, marriage is an incredibly bad idea in the Western world, specifically where family law states that or the legislation essentially is one-sided, meaning it's sided with the woman. So, I mean, the way my lawyer basically put it when I was going through my divorce, look, if you have the penis and you go to court, you're going to lose. It's just the way that it's been. That's just the way that it is. But he was talking to me about things that are potentially changing in the future. We're not there yet. We're not even close to being there yet. So if this is something that's on the radar screen in the next 5 to 10 years, it's probably not going to change that much. I'd even be surprised if it changes in my lifetime. I just think that the way things are incredibly hardened, and it's going to be very difficult to change because everything in the world that we live in, basically, especially with family law, is written to protect the woman. So that's where we sit today. I don't have a solution to this problem. My best solution would be people that are watching this right now, if you live somewhere where you can get married, have children, and if it doesn't work out, there's assumed shared parenting, move there. That would be my recommendation. In fact, you want to beat family law and set a precedent. You can go MGTOW and check out and say the game is rigged and not do anything or not participate in the sexual marketplace. That's one option. The other way is to move and live somewhere where the legislation is friendly to both parents should shit not work out. And stuff, for the most part, doesn't work out. It's very high risk, low reward for men. There's a book recommendation, again, pinned in the description below, called The Tactical Guide to Women, written by Sean T. Smith, a clinical psychologist, a regular Red Man Group panel contributor. Basically wrote a book based on his clinical practice, showing guys how to vet women for long-term relationships / marriage. So that's a good resource because there's real no magic bullet. I don't have a magic wand that I can pull from my drawer and wave and make everything go away and make legislation friendly. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. Patrick, I want to thank you for your sponsored video. I hope the community leaves some comments below. So comment below. Guys, you have any other solutions, something that I may have missed? If you live in a place in the world, let Patrick know where he might want to move to should he want to reproduce, because family law is a lot more friendly there. I know there's a few places, but that's the cold hard truth bomb of the reality of the world that we live in today. Thanks for watching today's video. If you want to make a request, you know where to find me. And last thing, my website is finally up, entrepreneursandcars.com/community. Moving away from Patreon slowly but surely. If you want to have access to a large men's community, we have a private discussion forum, a private Facebook page. I put out premium content that does not get uploaded to YouTube, that goes deeper on stuff that's more cerebral, that's useful towards men to become and live better versions of themselves. And we do live Q&As as well. So that's all $10 a month. And there's also coaching links there available if you want to chat with me. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.